Sorry for your lives. I miss you every time. It's so hard. I don't know how to automate OBS to open up. Ah, man. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are, back in Terra Nil. And... did we start one? Oh, wait, I did. Hello? Oh, there we go. Let's go to the world map. That should be good. Okay. Now, we have to go down here to the polluted bay. Bark. I did already do this one, as you can see, but we have to go back because that footage never made it. Now, despite this being a sleep podcast, I guess you could say this is. I'm actually really not sure. But despite this being a sleep podcast of sorts, I'm drinking coffee. Delicious. A little bit of honey. Black. Oh, nice. Oh. Okay. I don't see any bears here. I'm hoping that this one has bears because I have a very nice little story to tell you guys today that does happen to involve bears. But first of all, let's get started here. Both greenery and clean ocean contribute toward your goal. You will need to use power pylons to build toxin scrubbers farther inland. Carving new river beds with excavators and then placing calcifiers will allow you to create rocks to support pylons in remote areas. Yeah, this one's kind of fun. I like the way the electric output works on this one. Okay. That'll have to do. Okay, let's see. So, where does this story begin today? This is a lot more recent in my life. Something that happened just a few years ago. Now, if you've watched the first couple of episodes in this series, you would know that I grew up somewhere in rural Montana, let's say. And this story's probably going to position exactly where I grew up, even though I won't mention that directly. That probably won't do me any good, now will it? Yeah. So I mentioned in the last episode that I'm a fisherman, and most importantly that my father was a fisherman. He's the one who encouraged me along that path. Now, I didn't really get into fishing until much later, let's say sophomore year of high school, freshman year of high school, something like that. And specifically fly fishing really captured me. The feel of casting a fly rod is still pretty much unmatched, if you ask me, among satisfying feelings in this world that an individual can experience. Yeah. And Yeah, in the early days when he was dragging me around and I was catching pneumonia and catching big fish, but, you know, it still wasn't mine. It wasn't my hobby, you know, it was his. But later on, I did accept that it was my hobby as well. And this story takes place long after, sometime in college, I do believe, or slightly past. That's a whole nother story. A whole nother can of worms right there, but yeah, that was an unoptimal placement. I think what we really need to do is actually... This is kind of a tricky little seed to start off with. But, I set out one day. Now this was technically I think it was a spring day, but I think it was very, very late spring. Or, no, that's not right. Man, my memory gets worse and worse as I get older. No. Yeah, it was, I think it was actually late summer, almost fall. So like early September. Yeah. Early September, let's say, for sake of continuity. I actually don't remember specifically when this was, but I set out fishing. I jumped in my ancient Toyota Tacoma, extra cab, maroon. Still have that truck. Almost 300,000 miles. But this day, I started it up like a top, as I usually do, and drove deep into the mountains. It almost felt like I was running from my life for a while, which does tend to happen to everyone here and there. But I drove and I drove all the way to a secret little spot my dad had told me about that I had been to before, but I don't think I quite knew what I was getting into this day. That's for sure. The spot has a little... I don't even know if you would call it a pullout, but a pullout that has a little 4x4 track that goes over the railroad deep in the mountains. You cross the railroad, you drive on like the thinnest little path. If I remember correctly, I think the cottonwoods and the aspens and pines would brush the car mirrors, the truck mirrors, when you drove through. And you'd park. And this spot did not receive very much action, that's for sure. Because if you know anything about wild animals, you know that most wild animals do not appreciate people. Almost ever. like truly wild animals, do not, they, not only do they not like you, they don't want anything to do with you. They want to run. They want to get away. Unless something else happens. But that will be coming later. For now, I hopped out of the truck, built my fly fishing rod, which I always meant to start a little fly fishing YouTube channel, but I never did. So I'll give out some free advice here to the one person listening to this if you happen to be a fly fisherman. This is a pro tip. Do you guys know, do you know if you are a fly fisherman, do you know the grease you can use to put on the pieces of your rod before you build it so that they don't stick super crazy to each other and you can't get them apart later? Yeah, that stuff's a scam, guys. Don't use that. All you have to do is just put... Every fly rod will have a little dot a couple of inches below the like connector piece, like the top of it, where it connects to the next piece. I guess you could call it the male piece, so to speak. But every fly rod has a little... Most fly rods have a little indicator of where the piece actually ends and fits, like once it's snugly fit down. You want to find that indicator and then grease from that indicator all the way to the end with your nose. Any of you didn't know, all of us humans are just a bunch of greasy monkeys. And technically, and your nose is perfect. Just put the piece up, smush it on the sides of your nose, each side, nice and light. For you'll get the feel of how much nose grease you'll be able to be working with. Every person is different, so you'll have less to work with for some people that have drier skin. I have really oily skin, so I can grease all day long. I could grease 2 people's rods in a row and be fine. But I imagine if you have dry skin, you might actually struggle to grease a full rod, but I bet you still could if you got a little extra intuitive. Alright. We're moving on. Next, increase biodiversity by introducing fynbos, wetlands, and temperate and deciduous forests. Beehives can be placed within the branches of the trees in both types of forests. Wetlands are resistant to fires and can be used as a barrier for a controlled burn. Let's continue and begin seeding. I suppose since we have the arboretum that we will get some bears, which would be nice. Nice to see, for sure. Let's throw a little flag out over here. It's too far. Do we have the rock hopper? When do we start getting access to the rock hopper, man? I miss the rock hopper. It's so nice. Anyways, where was I? I built my rod. Strapped my bag over my shoulders. It's a sling bag. And, still have that bag. It's a good bag. Anyways. Finally, I strapped my bear spray to my hip. And my gun to the other hip. My father gave me a 44, which, let's just say, has a storied history, which I was about to say I don't have room to tell here, but this is a sleep podcast. This is a sleep channel. We got all the time in the world, don't we? Maybe I should tell that story. You know what? It's an interesting one to loop in, so I suppose we will tell it. This 44, originally, from what I was told by my father, started out in the hands of a rancher on the east side of Montana, a cattle rancher. And if any of you have been to Montana, you know that the cattle we farm here is Black Angus. Black Angus is almost synonymous with the state of Montana. In my mind, at least. But, I'm honestly not sure where this cattle rancher got it, but he ended up going to a, what do you call it? A rodeo. He ended up going to a rodeo, and the guy at the rodeo, there was a guy at the rodeo, standing outside the rodeo, pissed because he couldn't figure out how to get into the rodeo. He didn't have the money. I don't know, at the time it was probably a couple bucks, a buck. This is a long time ago at this point. I don't know how long ago, but it was a long time ago. This guy was standing outside. He's a bull rider, so he competes in the rodeo. And he didn't have the upfront cost to compete. And so the rancher was standing outside, and he overheard this rodeo guy, this bull rider, like begging the entrance lady to get in, to like just wave him for this one, you know. And apparently she didn't. She was obnoxious. She was super obnoxious, like that one lady from Avatar that wouldn't let them in to Ba Sing Se. But yeah, the rancher had this 44 on him. Wait a second. Did I get this story mixed up? I think I did. Yeah, I had it flipped. So, no, it was the bull rider who had the gun. You know what it's like trying to tell your parents stories at like 10 years after the fact. Oh man. So it was the bull rider that had the gun originally, I think. Yeah, that was it. And he sold it. That makes so much more sense. And he sold it to coop the money for the entrance fee to compete in the bull riding at the rodeo, to a rancher. And then that rancher sold it to another rancher who happened to be my dad's best friend at the time. And he had it for a while and then sold it to my dad. Long story short, my dad eventually gave it to me. Is this gun legal? We don't talk about that. That doesn't matter. That does not pertain to the story. The story is not legal advice. But I had it at the time. That's what's important. So I have my gun on my right and my bear spray on my left. And if any of you have been to northwestern Montana, you would know there's a reason that I am doing that, and that reason has two words in its name: Grizzly Bear. Grizzly bears are absolutely some of the most dangerous animals you can meet in North America, I would say. So it's nice to be prepared. Now, I was really glad that I was prepared on this day because I did end up having an encounter. I was walking down by the river. Now this is an interesting fishing spot because unlike a lot of Montana, it is extra overgrown with a giant bush-like tree shrub known as alder. And alder grows thick and it grows tall, like bamboo almost, filling in dense patchworks that you can't really see through. I was working my way down the fork of this river, fishing as one does. I don't remember if I caught anything that day, but it's possible. I think everything from earlier in that day kind of vanished as soon as I rounded the bend of the corner of the river. And I heard a noise. I heard a noise behind me and off to the right. It sounded a little bit like this. Which, if any of you know that I am not a very good vocal impressionist, but to me, it sounded like a baby bear. Now, a lot of you might be really excited to see a baby bear. Ooh, looky, it's a little baby bear. Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute and cuddly. And yes, that is true. Baby bears, which I've seen plenty, fairly up close, unfortunately, are very, very cute. They're cuter than you ever thought they were. Cubs are infuriatingly cute. As I was very soon to see. Because when I moved to look at the noise, it stepped out of the brush and did like an honest-to-God front flip right in front of me onto the bank of the river, tumbling around, walking all crazy like a cartoon character that we're not going to mention. But it was the most surreal thing I had ever experienced at the time. Because this baby bear was probably 20 feet away. Or for all you metric folk, I think that's like, I don't know, what is that? Let's just say like 7-8 yards, something like that. Not yards, 7-8 meters. Oh my god, I'm so American, it's bad. Oh, I'm so jealous of all you people who get to grow up with the metric system. Because there's good things about America, but the imperial unit system is not one of them. But anyways, this baby bear was very close. He was close enough that I could see individual hairs on his back and his eyelashes in the sunlight. Which, again, most of you would be delighted. But in that moment, I think I shit my pants a little bit. Seeing a baby bear in the wilds of Montana is not a good thing. Especially one this small. This bear was freshly born this season, I assume. It's cub. Which meant Mama was around somewhere. And sure enough, just as I was thinking that, Mama Bear showed up. But I didn't see her at first. Again, because the poplar was so dense and so insanely, like, just convoluted, you can't really see through it at all. So I heard her, and if you guys probably know, because you've seen it on television, and I will say, bears oftentimes are actually designated as they're actually represented in a fairly realistic way in terms of sound effects. So many of the sound effects of bears in movies are real bear sound effects, like real bears in captivity. Whereas, like, a lot of other creatures do not get that kind of love from Hollywood or the movies in general. And, yeah. If I was shitting my pants before when I saw the cub, when I heard the mom growl, I lost it. Which was a good thing that my body was already thinking for me. And as soon as it had seen the cub, it had already drawn both the pistol and the bear spray at the same time. Right and left. Accordingly. And at that point, there was nothing left to do for me. Running was an option, but kind of became less of an option once I heard how close the mom was. Now, I have really good hearing. It's probably my best sense. And I guess she was just as close as the cub had been before he tumbled into view from behind the alder thickets. We're in kind of a pickle here in terms of the game right now. Do we have any bears yet? Just curious. We don't. But I do think they're coming. We need to figure out how to get electricity out into the boonies here. Somehow. This could work. Except it has to be all the way back and up over here. Whoops. Sometimes when you put the calcifier down, it just doesn't do anything at all. That doesn't help us. This is a little bit rough. We might have to fire a way through, if possible. That doesn't seem to be possible at the moment. I don't like that at all. Maybe this. Gosh dang it. This might actually be a little bit tricky here. Wait. What if we do this? Nothing? Nothing at all? I really don't like that. And yeah, this might be tough here. This might be real tough. Why does the calcifier not work? You do it like this. It needs green space. Okay, I see. I think we need to do some more burning. Fortunately. Yeah, let's let that burn. And then I think we can go in, maybe once we green it up a little bit. Yes, okay, that's what we needed. So now we can do this. Oh my goodness, that was tough, man. Alright. Holy smokes. This game has like a pretty big randomness factor, because every time you do a level, it's actually not the same as every other time that anyone else does the level. It just randomly generates the level within a certain set of parameters, I suppose. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so it reaches to right there. A little bit of this section. I cannot. Oh, so close. Oh, we can do it here. Okay, that's cool. Let's burn this up then. Where was I? Right, the sound of the mother. Spooky, man. I knew right then I was in trouble. I was by myself. A good 2 hours drive out of service, cell phone service, and then a good hour hike past my truck into the wilderness. And I didn't have anyone to help me. I didn't have any support. You know, this was... I had been stupid. You know, I didn't even tell anyone where I was going. I just would have been cooked. I just would have been absolutely dead. For sure. But thank goodness I had brought protection. I'm not talking about condoms. I'm talking about bear protection. A gun and bear spray. Which we're going to talk a little bit about how you use those things. If you ever visit a place where you want to hike where there are bears. And I'm going to tell you right now, none of this applies to black bears. I'm talking only about grizzly bears. Black bears, you can actually just scare off. 99.999% of the time, you can just scare them off. Just get as big as you can, start shouting, start yelling, start hurling rocks, hurling stones, just be mean. Bare your teeth, jump up and down, be vicious, go down with a fight. And 99.9% of the time, the black bear is just gonna turn the other way and run as fast as he possibly can away from you in your terrifying antics. Grizzly bears are not like that. Grizzly bears know that they have just a little bit of an extra advantage over you than black bears do. They know that they weigh 200 pounds more often. They know that their claws are a third longer. They know that they're much stronger and much faster. And they also kind of know that they're, if not just as smart, a little bit smarter than black bears. And as I sat there, which I actually did crouch immediately upon hearing the mother. You want to be, with grizzly bears, you want to be less threatening. You want to be as small and unthreatening as possible, because grizzly bears will take any little sign of intimidation as a threat, especially mother grizzly bears. Mother bears are responsible for many, many, many more times the kills of humans than males or just lone female adults or subadults. But no, like fully grown, mature sows, which is what a female grizzly bear is called. It's called a sow. A male is called a boar. And kids obviously are called cubs. But mother grizzly, a sow with cubs, is extremely dangerous. She will protect her cubs with everything she has got. All smarts, all brawn, all resources at her disposal. If she thinks her cubs are in danger. Now, as soon as I heard the mother's call, I knew I was in trouble. Because the cub, who at this point in time was still on the bank of the river playing around, he was on the other side of me than the mom was. Or in other words, I was in between a mama grizzly and her cub. That is not a good place to be. In fact, it's a really, really bad place to be. And just like that, the alder brush parted like the Red Sea, and through it stepped one of the biggest sows I've ever seen in my life. Because I've seen a lot of grizzly bears, because I've spent a lot of time in the Rockies and in the mountains. In person, I've probably seen upwards of 20 bears in my life, 20 grizzly bears. Probably 50 black bears, I would say. But I had never seen a female, a sow, that I knew was a sow because she had cubs. The males never, ever, ever travel with cubs. In fact, the males are known to kill cubs of rival females and rival males, and then breed with the sow that had the cubs before him, so that he can replace those genetics with his own genetics. But that's a whole another conversation. Either way, I had never seen a sow this big and this beautiful. The golden afternoon sunlight trickled through the alder branches and splashed and spilled over the most gorgeous golden bear I had ever seen. And if you don't know what I mean by golden, I mean grizzly bears are, and black bears too, bears in general are highly differentiated in terms of coat color and pattern. Grizzly bears can be anything from really, really dark brown to all the way to pure honey gold, like say like this color right here. That's actually a pretty good grizzly color. They can be a little bit red tinged as well, or orangey. They can be all kinds of stuff. So seeing like a pure Goldilocks grizzly bear is quite the speciality. Now, I was kind of shocked even more because the cub that I had seen was very dark. It was a very dark, rich umber color with like light honey streaking, but most of its body was dark. So I had expected the mom, which I knew was around the moment I saw the cub. I expected the mom to look similar, but that was not the case. So I'm assuming Daddy Bear was a big boy, big dark black color, which grizzlies can get sometimes. And in fact, males often, I find, are darker colored than females, but that's not scientific at all. Don't take that as fact. It's probably not. It's probably just my own, you know, story. But as soon as I saw this mama bear, I knew I was fucked. I knew I was so fucked, dude. Oh, there was nothing that I could do except start backing away slowly with my eyes down. You do not want to make eye contact with grizzly bears unless you have somewhat of a death wish. You know, it's just not smart, man. It's just not smart. Now, I did want to look at her though, because if I was gonna die to a bear today, it would probably be curled up in a ball trying to protect my internal organs. But, I wanted to at least have seen the individual that did it to me. You know? So, sneaked a peek, obviously. And at that moment, she charged. Now, there's an interesting decision that had to be made when it came time to use a weapon for my own self-defense in this case. And, a lot of people will just tell you, oh, you're so screwed if you don't have a gun. Guns are the best. There's a reason we've used guns for hundreds of years, and bear spray is a modern piece of crap invention that doesn't really work, and it's the weak-minded version of a gun. Don't let those people get to you. That is not true in the slightest. Bear spray is extremely effective. In fact, it's more effective than guns in most cases. Now, the thing that a gun is useful for is firing what's called warning shots or warning rounds. Grizzly bears have a really, really good sense of hearing, as do all bears. And they do not like gunshots or loud sounds of that kind. So my first instinct was to let off 2 warning rounds into the ground, way off to my left. Or it would have been my right, because I had the gun in my right hand. But, that's what I did. I let off 2 warning rounds as soon as she started charging. And she froze in the middle of the creek that I was fishing, the river. It's more like a creek, kind of in between if you really ask me, but... She stopped. Now, I absolutely was not going to shoot her in any conceivable time, or unless she was on top of me, actively mauling me, I was not going to shoot this bear, because, especially in Montana, there is extreme law consequences for killing a grizzly bear. Even under self-defense, sometimes it can get a little bit hairy. Because they're Endangered Species Act, they have lots of protections, although I have heard that those have dropped recently, in recent years, but because their populations are way up. But, yeah. As my dad used to call them, rodents of unusual size. Obviously referencing the Princess Bride movie. But, yeah. She stopped, and I took that as all I needed. She was close enough. I ripped the tab off my bear spray, and I let that shit rip. I let it rip, dude. As hard as I possibly could. And by that I mean not holding it harder, but aiming it with the wind and everything, specifically towards her face. As I also moved backwards. Now, I did this for a while, until the can actually started slowing down and emptying. Pressure was finally releasing. But, if you know anything about bear spray, most bears that they... So you know that they track bears in the wild with collars and tags, just like they track many animals? Well, they've found that bears who get sprayed by bear spray, what they do typically is they go and find a den or a hole. They climb into the hole, they lay down, and they curl up for about 3 days. Because during this time, they can't see, they can't smell, they can't even barely hear because their ears are so swollen. Pepper spray is brutal. It is brutal. And it's extremely effective. So this mama, thank nature that I had some bear spray on me. This mama bear absolutely tanked the bear spray. Like, she must have had some kind of Dark Souls talisman for her poise or poison resistance or something. She stood there and just tanked, like, I don't know, maybe 20 straight seconds of pepper spray. And at this point I had almost ran out, so I stopped spraying and kept moving backwards. But she hadn't moved. She was still standing in the river. And at this point, I had lost track of where the cub was entirely. I think the mom at some point made a noise during all of this that was essentially, hey, go hide in the bushes noise. There's trouble afoot. Get your little sorry butt out of here. Or something of the like. And, that poor cub, man. I wasn't gonna shoot his mom, but I messed her up, because as I continued walking back, I was looking at the mom, because I wanted to see if she was gonna blind charge or try and do anything else. No. She was just standing there, with her eyes closed. And then she sneezed. I had never heard a bear sneeze. I'm not going to reenact it for you right now, because it might wake you up. But a bear sneeze sounds awfully like a human sneeze, I will say. Just for your information, if you were wondering. Okay, Finally, construct an airship out of parts that are recycled from your buildings. Satisfy the needs of the local fauna so that they remain after you leave. Let's do that, shall we? Do we have any bears yet? We do! See, that's a brown bear right there. You guys want to know? Even it says brown bear. You guys want to know how you can tell the difference between a brown bear and a black bear? It's kind of difficult sometimes because black bears can be colored like brown bears and brown bears can be colored like black bears. But these artists in this game got this really right with this icon. Brown bears, or grizzly bears, as they're called oftentimes in North America, are much bigger than black bears, first of all, but they also have deeply dished faces, as you can see in this little icon. Do you see how deep those dishes are on the face where the eyes are? It's almost like two upside down plates or bowls that shape the skull as it comes out to the nose. There's a couple of other differences. Grizzlies almost always have much bigger traps and shoulders and neck muscles. It'll be much more bulky up top. Let's see if they nailed that in the actual design of the brown bear. We need to place an animal observatory so we can go straight to them. Oh, he's over here. Oh yeah. Those models look pretty good. But media in general has always had a pretty good idea of how brown bears and grizzlies look because they're the most vicious, they're the most popular in the media, obviously. But sometimes they tend to be depicted a little bit wrong in my case, so I'm liking this. This really supports what brown bears actually do in the wild. They love wild flower fields and forests, obviously, but they root around for tubed plants, like wild onion and such. Okay, I think we've made it here. So, how are all of our people doing? You need a lot of help. I'm actually just going to move you to somewhere like this. I'm going to start throwing in some logs as well. But yeah, that's about it for my story. She continued to sneeze as I traversed farther and farther away from her. Now peeing my pants, essentially, that I'm alive and that she didn't just remember where I was from before I sprayed her in the eyes with pepper spray and just charged me. I would have probably ended badly. Alright, just putting in all those logs, as you can see, has helped a lot of our animals, quite a lot. So let's see here, can we... I always knew that this was going to be too small of a pocket of conservatory trees here. It's actually quite unfortunate because I don't think we can really change that all too much. We can move her, but there's always going to be deer spawning here, so... So they actually like that less because there's less water. Let's see what we can do about that. And I hate that you can't fire through trees with the cannon. Okay, you... We'll come back to you. But I think we really need to grab some more conservatory. So let's do this. Let's see how much of this we can burn. Maybe we should establish some conservatory space back here. We can get electricity back there. Which we can. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go. Here and here. There we go. Okay. Move you. Into there. Into you. Into there. Throw some more logs in here. Just to provide as much access as we can. Looks like a bluebell. There we go. That should be perfect. Amazing. Look at that. All greens. Now, I actually only just told my best friend about this story. I actually didn't tell my parents because they would scold me for going alone. And I just didn't really feel like being scolded, so kept this one to myself all these years. But figured I would share it with you guys today as we finish up this map. Quite like how our little everything is turned out in terms of distribution. Let's go around and let's do this. Can we go up here? We can. Okay. We gotta be really careful about all this here, so see something like that. Something like that. Yeah, that'll work nicely. Let's see. That should work well. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we do this. And we're gonna need to just hope and pray that all this stuff works out down over here. Which I think it does. This one might be tricky. Something like that should work though, I would say. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay, it should go. Oops. That. What did we leave up over here? We left one of those puppies. We'll do something like that. Something like that. Should cover everything that we have left. Now we can just go around and take some photos. You'd get all these, right? Oh yeah. Alright, let's go take some photos. Let's see. This is a good one. Very nice. Save the handbook. Let's just replace the ones that I did earlier that are not going to show up on film ever now with the ones we take now. It should work nicely. There's a bunch of bears and some deer. Let's see if we can get all three or all two in one picture. Nice. Amazing. So we need boars, frogs, and timber wolves. Let's save that one. Boars, frogs, and timber wolves. There's a frog. So let's go find some of those guys. I do know that they're gonna be in here for sure. There's a boar there and some timber wolves. Can we get all of them in one picture though? I would like that. I don't think that's gonna happen, so we're gonna do it this way. Boars have disappeared. I don't see them here. Let's do this. Is that one? No. That's a wolf. I think that's one. About to find out. There it is. Amazing. Might actually leave that last picture that I took earlier. Okay. We've done it. Let's get out of here. Time to roll. Thank you very much for joining me on another one of these Terra Nil sleepy adventures. I hope you sleep well and don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everyone. Good night. This has been Slumberized Media Co. Just kidding. Thank you. Thank you for joining me.